Greetings. You have been cordially invited to the apocalypse. Sponsored by the Fawn Pod, the Fawncast, friends occasionally not disagreeing. I'll make sure to sign up for your chance to win a lifetime supply of Nuka Cola. Because tonight we're here talking about the brand new mega show on Amazon Prime Video called Fallout.
Woo-woo.
I'm Brett. Here tonight we also have Joe, Justin, Dave, and Cody.
What is happening?
Ooh.
Our average number of hosts has been rising higher than a nuclear missile lately.
Ooh.
Before we get into the discussion proper, what have you guys been up to this week? Anything fun? Any fun stories?
I will start and tell all of you that X-Men 97 is excellent. I watched the old cartoon when I was a kid. Didn't really bother watching it again in preparation for X-Men 97, but I had a friend tell me that the new series is really good, and watching it, I was blown away. They're releasing the episodes week by week, and they're really every episode seems to have about 3 or 4 episodes worth of plot line shoved into it. So X-Men 97 on Disney Plus. Check it out.
Nice.
Is it, can I ask, is it standalone or is there ongoing?
It seems to follow the plot lines that the original cartoon was doing. I at the beginning of it, before they even start, Professor X has died, which I think happened
Spoilers.
That they it's 2 seconds in, you guys. They seem to follow some comic stories that I am vaguely familiar with. I haven't encountered before. And
okay.
All right. Okay. All right, who's next? Cody.
I'm trying to think of anything I did this week. I've just been battling exhaustion this week. Honestly, this week has been the worst, most exhausted week ever. But one thing I did do this week was watch a really good TV show to make sure I watched a really good TV show this week. So I checked out the season finale of What If Season 2. Keeping that going here with the Disney Plus train. Not sure how I felt about the finale, but there were some pretty kick-ass fight scenes.
You just said it was really good, so
yeah.
Well,
backtracking that now?
No, I said I intended to watch a good show.
I mean, I know you were trying to set up a classic Cody style dig at our main topic, but
no. There were some pretty fun fight scenes though. The one scene I'm trying to remember now, Captain Carter had basically the Infinity Gauntlet, Odin's sword, and Hela's helmet. And then the Ten Rings were involved.
Dear
the
God.
Hammer was involved. It was a pretty epic level battle that was happening against Doctor Strange. So,
Very cool.
Yep, that was it. That's my whole life.
All right. I'm gonna break the combo of Disney Plus things because I haven't really watched much on there in a while, but it's like I'm paying for it. But
you're welcome.
Thank you. But something I did pay for is I believe it was my
all the Disney Plus money.
I think this was my second most anticipated game on that list we did a while back, Unicorn Overlord, which I had put on the back burner for a while because we had other stuff going on, like the Dragon's Dogma review and that sort of thing. But it's really solid. If you ever played Ogre Battle for the SNES way back in the day, this is the sequel we never got. I know that series did continue, but it changed. Yeah, it changed formats a little bit. It had Tactics Ogre and that sort of thing, but there's never really been anything like Ogre Battle since then until now, where it's part real-time strategy, parts turn-based, parts auto battler almost. Really interesting setup. So far the story is kind of, there's an evil empire that swept the world, and you play as like the lost heir of the original kingdom who's trying to start a resistance and fight back. I don't know if it'll get more complex as it goes on, but it works as a setup for the gameplay, which is fantastic. Also, incredible artwork. It's a Vanillaware game. If that means anything to you listening at home, that's pretty much all I need to say. If you're not familiar with their work, they've done things like Odin Sphere and Dragon's Crown, and just a lot of beautiful pixel art games. So yeah, if any of that sounds interesting, give it a go. It's a very unique and very fun title so far.
I mean,
Cool.
since it's from the same team that made Dragon's Crown, does it got them titties?
Yeah, I was gonna say I could neither confirm nor deny, but yeah, you see pretty early on that at least, yeah, that aspect of things is very much alive and well.
All right, I have a new most anticipated game.
Hmm.
What you
Let's
got,
see, who
Joe?
do we have left at this point?
I have not been up to much this week. Honestly, I have mostly been spending my free time at the gym, so I'll shout that out.
Hey, good job, man. Congrats.
I think Cody mentioned like, working on health stuff as one of his things a couple weeks ago, and I want to give a shout out to strength training. Go lift some heavy stuff, people.
Very nice.
It's you're probably not going to actually get buff. It's very hard to actually like build a bunch of visible muscle, but strength training is one of the most important things you can do, especially as you age, as we are all doing because we're old. Helping to preserve or build muscle mass will only benefit you in a number of ways as you get older, and it also helps ensure that you are burning fat and not muscle if you're trying to lose weight. So it's a good thing to do all around.
Cool. Very nice. Yeah, I need to do more of that myself, as I recently hit a new high in my weight lately, and that's not a
boy.
good thing.
I would start it, but now that Joe's doing it, I'm against it.
I'm okay with that. Keep gaining
Yep.
weight, Cody.
I'm working on it.
As for me, other than the flat tire I had today, which almost derailed my day, we've been watching a show on Netflix called Black Spot, which it's been pretty fun. It's very like it's just like this remote town, a lot of weird stuff going on, like a lot of like violence and murders and weird things, and it's a decent show. I bring it up primarily though because it's a French show, and so it's dubbed in English, and it's honestly like one of the best dubbed shows I've ever watched, because like I have a really hard time watching shows that are dubbed, because usually the voices don't match the characters, and like the inflections are wrong for the scene, and like it just doesn't work for me. And I'm like, I can't watch this. But if you didn't watch the characters like lips like really well to realize that the words coming out are not matching their mouths, you would think that the voices are coming from these characters. It's really well done. So kudos to them. But that's about the only thing I've really been up to this week. So that's it for me. So I guess let's get into the topic here tonight. As I said, we are talking about the new series just released on Amazon called Fallout, which has been pretty highly anticipated for a while. And I should say right at the start, it is an adaptation of a video game series, which we now have two of those really good ones here in the books, it looks like, between that and The Last of Us. But I guess first, for anyone who's not familiar, what is Fallout about? So what I've got here is the world of Fallout is and specifically like what I'm about to say is kind of applies to before the bombs fell and the fallout happened, but it's kind of described as an atom punk retro futuristic. So that's a mouthful there, but essentially it's how people in the 50s thought the future would be. You see a lot of technological advancements, and they're kind of like people are obsessed with like everything like nuclear powered and like atom this nuclear
and commies.
And commies, that's right.
I just want to say, not to interrupt you, but sorry, but
Mhm.
just at the top, I want to say to listeners, we've only seen the first episode,
Yeah.
even though all the episodes are out, and we will only be discussing the first episode. So if you're going into this worried, there's gonna be a bunch of spoilers or discussion for the whole series. We're just talking about the first one tonight.
Yes,
Good
thank you.
point.
Good point. Yeah, it's a good point to mention right up front before we get into a lot of discussion here. So, yes, this is our first impressions of the series. First episode only. We specifically all agreed to not watch beyond the first episode, which I found very hard to do last night, but,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
held to it. And but yeah, so yeah, Fallout is very like its styling, including like the music and everything. It's like very like 50s vibes. And there's a lot of like quirky things. Like there's a lot of things that like everything feels like an advertisement. And then like the outside world, because there's nuclear bombs that fall, and like the outside world is basically just a wasteland. It's kind of like dangerous and bleak. But still has all the humor of this world, which is often very like satirical and like tongue in cheek. And yeah, so that's the world of Fallout. As I said, this has been adapted from a video game series, which currently has 4 games in the main series, with Fallout 5 in development. If we can use
Justice for New Vegas.
Yeah, for sure.
It's true too.
It's the best one.
If you kind of look at the development times of Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 as any indication, we probably won't be getting Fallout 5 from Bethesda for anytime soon here. But they also have 6 spin-off games, which include the mentioned of New Vegas, which they don't consider as canon to the story, I suppose. And Fallout 76 also falls in that category, as it's kind of like a like the redheaded stepchild, I suppose. But yeah, so there's a lot of games in this series. What just real quick, how many of you guys have played a Fallout game?
I have played all of them except 76, and probably just maybe half of the spin-off games, but I'm a longtime fan of the series.
Nice. Joe raised his hand.
I am a slightly less versed in the games than Dave. I mean, Fallout 3 was my first game, which was, I think that was the first Bethesda Fallout game, if
Yeah.
I'm correct. It was Interplay before that, is that right?
Yes.
I want to say, yeah.
But I played Fallout 3, which I just absolutely loved. I have played that game multiple times. And then played New Vegas, played Fallout 4, have played all 3 of those games multiple times, all the way through all the DLC, spent hundreds of hours at each one. I mean, the Bethesda RPGs, Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, are like my favorite video games, aside from Portal 2.
I was gonna say.
But yeah, I really love the Fallout games. I love the world. I love, the retro futuristic feel and the weird humor, and yeah, it's good times. Justin, I'm assuming you have probably played a Fallout or 2.
A couple, yeah. The first one I ever played was the first one. Back when I had a subscription to PC Gamer, and every month they'd have like a CD, because I'm old, with like demos and special stuff on it. And it must have been like an anniversary edition or something like that, where they actually had free games on one of these, and one of the games was the first Fallout. So I gave it a go, and it wasn't quite like any other RPG I'd ever played. From the setting, which was very much more post-apocalyptic sci-fi versus the standard fantasy I was used to like the sense of humor, the more mature tone. It was just a really interesting experience and a fascinating world. Never played the second one, at least not to any great extent. I think I played a demo for it or something after that. And then I played Fallout 3 when that got released and kind of reinvigorated the franchise, and I enjoyed the heck out of that one. Have not played 4 because it got very mixed reviews when it came out, and I still haven't bit the bullet on that one yet. Or New Vegas, even though I have that in my library because it was
New
free
Vegas
on
is so
Epic Games Store.
good.
I know.
I
There's so
actually
much to
just
play.
replayed. I just replayed New Vegas like last year into this year,
Oh,
and it's still it holds up so well.
nice. It's on my list. I'll get to it at some point. I haven't played any of the spin-offs though. Besides that one, either like Fallout Tactics or 76 or any of those. So,
Ooh, I forgot. I did play Fallout Shelter for a hot minute, and it was fun for like 2 hours.
all right.
Nice.
Am I correct in assuming, Cody, you haven't played a Fallout game?
I haven't played any of the proper Fallout games. The only one from the universe I played was the precursor back for the NES, was called the Manhattan Project. I think the Ninja Turtles were in it, but it was still really good.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I myself, I've been very, I'd say fairly familiar with the Fallout world. The only game I've ever played is 76, which I think a lot of people might shun me for.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah, I am like
Wild.
shocked.
It
Jeez,
was just,
Brett.
it was like, it was coming out, and I was like, it was kind of hyped up, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna check this out. And then like, as I started playing it, I had like other people were saying, "Oh my god, I hate this game. It's nothing like Fallout." Blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Oh well, I mean, I'm kind of enjoying it, but." So,
Man, I didn't think I would be like the second most versed in at least the newer games.
Yeah.
yeah,
I literally built a gaming PC when Fallout 4 was coming out just so I could play it properly.
nice.
Nice.
All right. So what would you guys say is, so we've got like dozens, like literally, I mean, what do you couldn't even count them, how many dozens and dozens of like post-apocalyptic shows and movies are like available out there. So like, what would you say sets this apart from other ones? Why should people watch this instead of Walking Dead or Last of Us or Mad Max properties?
I would say it's probably the retro future aesthetic. Because I mean, yeah, you could argue at this point Mad Max is sort of retro futuristic because it was sort of an 80s projection of the future. But Fallout goes back, further to the 50s, and it just there's an interesting character to everything, from how people interact to like the design of just the living spaces to even the art style and like posters in the background and stuff. It has its own unique flavor that nothing else really manages to capture. So I think that's a huge draw in my book.
Yeah, I would add to that and say I think humor is also like a core element of the Fallout world in general and this series. I don't know if we're getting into too much discussion about the series at this point, but I will say that one of the things that I've always enjoyed about the Fallout universe is that it manages to balance very different tones. Like it explores some like very dark subject matter a lot of the time, but there's also this really irreverent, sometimes just like straight up goofy humor that often presents itself. And the two are like occasionally at odds with each other, but they still manage to feel like they belong in the same world together somehow.
I agree with you on that, Joe. And I think that one of the most impressive things that the show does is capture that tone.
Yeah.
That perfect balance between the campy humor and this serious darkness that the series has. It really uses the setting to its full advantage. The characters really portray that very well.
All right. I think I would agree with all of that. Just go through real quick before we get into some of the episode itself. Just so in this show, we have the cast. We have Walter Giggles as Cooper Howard.
That's his name. Yes,
I love Walter
correct.
Giggles.
Or is that no? It's Wilbo Gaggins. That's who it is.
Is he the new Benedict Cumberbatch?
Walton Goggins.
Wobble
A name
Gagby?
that is hard to get correct. Now I remember seeing him back like he was on the Shield. That was probably the first time
Yeah.
I saw him. Like
Me too.
it's an old ass show. But he was really good on that, and he's been in a ton of things since then. We also have Ella Purnell, who plays Lucy McLean. I looked at it and she's been in like a ton of stuff, though I don't think I've ever seen her in anything, or I don't remember her being in things, I guess, at least that much.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything
Mhm.
before this.
She seems instantly familiar, but I don't agree. I'm the same way. I don't think I've actually watched any of the
I
stuff.
feel
she's
like
been in.
there are a lot of like big-eyed white women that have emerged in the past like decade or so in various media.
You know what? I completely agree. I think that's
I'm
a
not
fair
complaining.
assessment.
Yeah.
This is like a conversation my wife and I often have while we're watching something. It's like, have I seen her in something before, or does she just look like a generic white woman?
I get
They
that.
all look the same.
Yeah.
There it is.
We also have Kyle McLaughlin,
Yay!
who was a
Boo.
fan favorite, a lot of people here, I think. Playing Overseer Hank McLean, probably better known as Dale Cooper for a lot of people.
Yep.
I believe me, it's Special Agent Dale Cooper. Thank you.
Sorry, my bad.
He was special, all right.
And then like I said, the other main character we have in this series is Maximus, played by Aaron Moten. And I think this is probably the biggest thing he's ever been in. I looked at his list as well, and I didn't really see anything on there that stood out to me as like a big property. And I think all these characters are new. Is that am I correct in that? I don't think any of these are like from the
Yes.
games.
I believe this series is, at least for the most part, original content. So new characters, kind of new settings, but still tying into the overall world.
I believe it takes place after all of the games. I think I read online it's like 10 years after Fallout 4.
Oh,
That sounds right.
Okay. So I think now we can just kind of we'll just kind of skim scenes and just let everybody just talk about their favorite parts about different things and just let the discussion flow from there.
Cool.
So starting out, we have, where's my list here? The first scene we get is a pretty dang amazing scene as far as I'm concerned. The intro, which is like pre-Fallout, before the world fell apart. We meet Cooper Howard, who is we don't get really we get in some sort of indication that he's perhaps an actor, maybe, or he's somebody like famous, but he is currently working as a cowboy at this kid's cowboy themed birthday party. And honestly, I thought this scene was like terrifying. Like I really loved the acting of the daughter. Like she
my
looked like
God.
she was shitting her
Yeah.
pants.
She
Like, that-
sold it big
that was
time.
amazing.
Yeah, she was great.
Your
Yeah.
thumb or mine, like the way she delivered that was absolutely
Mhm.
incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah, really great work. Yeah, it was crazy too. Just like, we get like we know that something's going to happen. Like obviously we get to the point where this world is bombed out,
Yeah.
but
I mean, as a fan of the games, like I almost immediately felt like I was in good hands, like within the first minute of this show starting. Like the very first shot with like the, whatever production company credits is on this like retro futuristic TV, which is like an exact design that you see repeatedly throughout the games.
mm,
And then within like the first minute, I think we see a Mr. Handy unit, which is a
Right.
series of like robots in the games that are basically like robot servants. So it's just like it throws you right away into, I mean, as we discussed, like what people thought the future would look like in the 1950s. But it's like this kind of iconography that looks exactly like what those things look like in the game, but brought to life. And it just like immediately made me feel like, okay, these people respect the source. They know what they're doing. Yeah. I also I thought it was cool that it started with a flashback because in the games we don't really see directly, I think, any pre-war scenes, or at least not much of that.
Well, in Fallout 4, it starts
Oh,
just
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
before. I will say that every single Fallout game starts with Ron Perlman's voiceover saying "War, war never changes," and this did not. And so I was immediately a little
Dave is
little
angry.
bit doubting because of that, but I agree with the rest of what you said, Joe, how it very quickly then let me know that like they understood the assignment.
So, question from the non-player here.
Yeah, what do you got?
Yes.
So this seems to be, and I knew absolutely nothing about the games going into this. I will appreciate to the point where I didn't even realize what Fallout was referring to as a title. So there's that where I'm at. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
So getting into this seems to be a society that is entirely based on preparation for nuclear holocaust. And like this company is huge into prepping people for the nuclear holocaust, but it seems like they like are living their lives in fear and like waiting for the moment, and like their spending habits and their consuming habits and everything seem to be really tied to this idea of
Well,
nuclear fallout.
it's basically Cold War paranoia, like just driven to the nth degree. So
So I thought it
the
was
Cold War is pretty
interesting
hot.
then when the bombs go off, like the first thing we see is like the family that was like the dad like punches this other dude in the face to like keep him out of his bomb shelter and stuff, and like they just like in 1 second the society like turns to shit. And like to me as the outsider, I'm like their whole society is predicated in this idea of them being prepared for this event to happen, and when it finally happens, like nobody knows how to act in this moment, which I get there would definitely be fear when the moment happens, but I was like, wait, that's what the whole society's set up for. And
I see where you're going with that. I don't think that's what the whole society is based on. It's essentially, like Joe said, Cold War paranoia, where they fear that it's going to happen, and so that's kind of the the talk of that decade. The fear of that happening, and then Vault-Tec, the company, taking advantage of that by building a couple hundred vaults and selling people space within those.
maybe I was in the
vaults.
mindset already because I did watch those 2 3-minute videos on Amazon to like help me get into what this was a little bit, which basically is like 2 3-minute commercials of the company. So it kind of goes from like that into this scene.
Yeah,
So
I don't. I mean, this isn't. I mean, I guess this isn't a spoiler for the show because I haven't seen more than the first episode. But like in the games, the more you kind of dig through like abandoned computers and vaults and things like that, the more you get a sense that Vault-Tec's agenda was not entirely what it presented itself as.
what?
So I'm assuming that, we'll
Okay.
learn more about like Vault-Tec and, its background and agenda as the series goes on. But I mean, at base level, like Dave said, you could think of it as like they were just taking advantage of their paranoia to make money. It's not necessarily that everybody was like actually expecting that nuclear war would break out any moment.
Okay.
And every vault is essentially set up as an experiment of some kind. Like there might be a couple of control vaults, but basically they switch a
Yeah.
little variable in each one.
Oh.
And I think 31, 32, and 33 are connected, which is a unique thing. Normally
Yeah.
they're siloed off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask about. That was is that a thing in any of the games where the vaults are connected? Because to my knowledge, they're not.
I was trying to think about that. I don't remember seeing that before. I mean, you certainly discover other vaults in the games, but I don't think there are any that are directly connected like that.
Yeah, usually they're a bit of a jaunt to get from one to the other.
Okay, that ties into some questions I had later on, so that's good.
Okay.
Before we move on past the birthday party, I don't know if other people have comments. Since it's a show and you guys haven't seen these characters before, storytelling wise, I don't know where we're going with this, but I did jot down at the end of the episode back for this first scene that I wanted to know more about this cowboy, and I'm assuming we're going to get some flashback scenes in the show now, but I don't know.
I'm sure we'll get some
I would
explanation of
assume, yeah,
I-
we'll probably get
the
some more.
story.
I
Well-
have gathered through the ether that we will see more flashbacks of him.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess let's hit the next scene here. So we get a bit of a time jump, just 219 years. Just a little jump.
It feels like
Um,
only yesterday.
And we go into one of the vaults, Vault 33. We're meeting Lucy and the other dwellers of this vault. And this was a really fun scene, especially after the dark scene that we just came out of.
Yeah.
This felt really good. It had a lot of humor. And so we're into this scene right where Lucy is essentially applying to be part of the triennial trade with Vault 32, which for those of you who weren't sure what triennial meant, triennial is a once every 3 years. So and essentially she's like applying to be to get a husband from a different vault. Essentially, because everyone in her vault she's related to in some fashion, basically.
She's tired of cousin stuff.
Yes.
I
Messing around with your cousin is all good and well for kids, but it's just not a sustainable long-term sexual practice, you know?
That's what I've heard too. I did enjoy that kind of like running joke throughout the
That was
episode.
hilarious. Like that was, I mean, honestly, that was another reason where I was like, okay, they get it. Like they know what Fallout is.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, she's essentially in that interview. She's doing her
Her
character
special
creation,
skills.
like
Yes.
like how every game starts. She's telling us what her skills
Yeah.
are, what her specialties are.
That's a
That
good
was
point, yeah.
hilarious.
It's a
Yeah, that was
fantastic
hilarious
way to
itself.
start.
Yeah, it just had a lot of really fun dialogue here, and like the characters are all like really likable right away.
Yeah.
Like everyone, even the committee, those people, whatever they are, they're like hearing her plea here. Like you just get this vibe from them that they're just like, it's just fun characters, fun people.
Yeah.
And you also, once we get into the vault, we meet her dad, and you get like a little really good kind of relationship building and like emotional, some good heart stuff there. And I also felt like they really nailed the vibe of just like what I felt like life in these vaults would be like.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to me because it very much feels like the start of a Fallout game. I mean, like Dave said, she's basically, you know, listing out like choosing her special skills, but also in like at least the games I've played, like as the player character, you always happen to be in like the one vault where everything is idyllic and like everyone gets along until something goes wrong or like something happens.
Yeah.
And that's like
Mhm.
very much the case here. You know, everyone's living in harmony and everything's great until suddenly it's not.
Speaking of
And then,
which,
go ahead.
oh no, if you got a comment, then go ahead.
I was going to say, and then even when it's not, after that crisis point, a large section of the population tries to go back to believing everything's just
Yeah.
fine. It's just that's very much in that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's okay
ingrained into
mentality.
them.
Yeah.
So speaking of the next part, we basically, they agreed to this this trade, and they said start setting up for the wedding like immediately. We get the Lucy meets her new husband named Monty, and go through the ceremony, and quickly starts getting ominous and weird.
And sexy.
I really enjoyed Lucy's small talk of what's your sperm count? That was a really great line. I enjoyed that quite a bit. But yeah, we start seeing like almost immediately that like something's wrong with these Vault 32 people. I imagine
her brother seems to be like really suspicious of them right from the start.
Mhm.
Mm,
I actually rewatched this episode just before we started recording, and like the second time I noticed even more that they keep cutting to the brother, and it seems like he's really like tried to eye these people up and figure out what's going on.
Mm.
But yeah, they have like scars and tattoos and like sun damage. I
Mhm.
That's a
think
good
it
point, yeah.
shows the naivete of the
Yeah.
Vault 33 dwellers that they didn't pick up on this immediately as a problem.
Mm.
And then they're like, even like the over quote unquote overseer from the other vault, when she shows up, the Vault 32 overseer is like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened to whatever the previous one's name was. And it's just like the explanation is just very short, very undescriptive. It's like, oh yeah, he died of a disease or something like that, and then just no further elaboration. It's like, well, that's weird.
Mm. I would have to imagine that people who are more familiar with the games probably picked up on that stuff like almost immediately. They're like, oh, these people are not actually from Vault 32. But we moving on here. Lucy takes Monty back for a tour of their new home, where we get a view of a disgusting man bottom. I just had to stick that in there for us, I guess.
Disgusting as man bottoms
Disgusting
go.
man bottom.
It was fine.
I mean, again,
Your
I
opinion.
love how she's like trying to show him around the apartment, and he just like takes his clothes off, and we see his man bottom, and then he looks at him and just goes okie dokie, and then they
Okie
just start
dokie
going
then.
at it
Yep.
hardcore. Like they just go down to Bone Town.
Yeah, she's getting her radiation injections. So we she fairly quickly figures out that that he is not what he seems.
When he
And,
wipes his dick on the curtain, she goes,
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh.
something's up
Hilarious.
here.
That was crazy.
He just fills a pitcher full of fresh water and just starts guzzling it, and it's like, okay, that's not normal.
We do gotta jump into like the madness here after that, where it's just like chaos outside in the hallways, and my favorite part is it's like this guy just like stuffing cake in his cake hole while like randomly shooting his machine gun. Just like having the time of his life out there. But yeah, the one thing that I kind of took away from this was like it was much more gory than I was expecting it to be. Like there's blood and guts and like dismemberment all over the place this scene.
Somebody turn on the bloody mess perk.
It's true. I was surprised by the level of gore, but also it is very appropriate for the Fallout games. Like that is just kind of part of how things work in the games.
Yeah.
You know, there are lots of heads exploding and limbs being shot off and things like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I do want to say about the scene, I loved the sequence because it takes place largely in the sort of quote unquote outdoor area where they had the wedding, which is this larger space in the vault that has, a bunch of projectors set up to sort of show an idyllic, like Midwestern farmstead kind of countryside, and on the walls and everything to make it look bigger than it is. And once the bullets start flying and people start dying, I think like a shot hits the projector or something like that, which knocks it off kilter, and the film starts to melt. And on the walls, there's like, you see that projected, and it's like mushroom clouds coming up, symbolically.
Yeah.
And I loved that. It was understated, it was subtle, and it really it showed that the world was falling apart again, just on a smaller scale. It was just,
I mean,
chef's kiss.
Worth noting that the showrunners for this are Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy
Of Westworld fame.
of Westworld fame,
Mhm.
which at least the first season of that series, I think, is like one of the great seasons of television of all time.
And their message so far in this episode, don't go to parties or
It's true.
celebrations of any kind.
We're 2 for 2 here.
Yeah.
Again, I love how they just like get the humor where it's like a person coming out with food and this other guy's like, get that jelly mold out of here. You could just say, get out of here. But no, specifically the jelly mold's gotta go.
We also have the old-timey music playing while all this violence is going on, which again harkens back to the games.
Yeah. So good.
Yes, Cody?
I have questions.
Yes. Yes, Jonathan Nolan is Christopher Nolan's brother.
No, I know that.
No.
Jonathan Nolan's the better writer. Anyway, let's go on.
I agree with that.
It is true.
Uh,
Yeah, it's very true.
Only one of the two Nolans have I used as a lesson in school, and it wasn't Christopher. Sorry, buddy. All right, let's do this up here. So my question as the non-game player here, and I don't necessarily feel as though this is a game-specific question, why did the people from 32 come into 33 with this big charade of the wedding and like wait till the next morning to do all this? I was like, why wouldn't
It
they?
wasn't the next morning.
It's not the next morning. It's the
No.
same day.
Well, they like have sex, and then they wake up, and then everybody's being murdered.
No, they
No.
have sex, and then
They
like
have-
2 minutes later, someone's
Yeah,
being
they're
murdered.
like
Oh, okay.
basking in the afterglow, and then yeah.
All right. Well, time being what it is, that's not the point I'm getting at here. So why do they not just, when they open the hatch from 33 to 32, like just come in guns blazing and like
We
just
don't know.
do it then?
For the sake of us, the viewer, I think
Is that
probably
purely what it is? The only reason I
I
could
feel-
think of was
well-
like a ploy to add trauma to Lucy. That was all I could come up with.
I feel like there is
as
something
the
more to
show
that.
creator, not as the yes.
I
Go
mean,
on,
maybe
Joe.
we can get into like questions we have later or something, but I mean, I think that was intentional because it seems like the leader of this raider group knows Lucy and Hank, and I mean, they kidnap Hank, like they,
Mhm.
knock him
Yeah.
out and take him away. So it doesn't seem like their mission was just to kill everebody.
Oh,
I think
that's true. The line about her mother.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Ooh,
she
let's get to
says
that
she
in a
looks a lot
second.
like her
Let's get to
mother,
that in a
so-
second. The only thing I could think of was maybe like they didn't have their entire like crew down there yet, so they were like buying time until the rest of the people got in for the fight. I don't know. I was just trying to figure out why this would be the case, but
It's so
Anyway.
that in the season finale, Lucy can discover she's pregnant.
so how in 1950s technology do we have projectors that can shoot through corn onto walls and shoot at a 180 curved
It's
surface?
not
It's very high
1950s
up.
technology.
It's very high up, pointed down.
What
it's-
what technology
special?
is it, Joe?
Well, the 219 years ago is not the 1950s. It's like,
It's
The-
2077
yeah,
is when the bombs went off.
it's
I
just,
was
it's,
hoping you'd say that. All right,
Yeah.
now that you've established the timeline,
Oh no.
how is it
Oh,
that
boy.
they have better tech down in the hole where they're quarantined in little tiny areas and don't have resources versus on the surface?
We only saw a snippet of what was on the surface back then. Or unless you mean like surface of the present day.
I mean, yeah, surface present day, yeah.
because they
Nuclear
have
wasteland?
resources. Yeah, I mean, they're not exposed to all the nuclear fallout. They
True.
do have resources in the vault. They also have
How extensive
scientists
are
in
these
the
things?
vault
What
We
who
need
are
to
what
like,
technology is down in the vaults that you think wasn't around when the bombs went off?
Well, for starters, projectors that can shoot through corn and wrap around a 180 curved surface
They-
wall.
They didn't need those at the
yeah.
glimpse
At
of
the kid's
party
birthday
we
party.
saw, there was a robot like butler at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like there is tech that
Well, that's the
we
thing is like it
still
was
don't
it
have
was
that
it
they
was
had in this.
it's
Wow.
supposed to be the future as conceived in the 1950s.
Right.
So it wasn't the actual 1950s, and that's the
Right.
level of technology they had. It's like if you were in the 1950s,
Sure.
what did you think that like 200 years from now would look like?
Yeah, like Forbidden Planet stuff, or that 1950s sci-fi. What was project.
No, I get all
imagined
that,
then.
but I'm
The
just saying
Jetsons.
it seems as though being stuck in this hole underground would limit what you'd have the ability to technologically advance through the years. I don't know. I mean, there seems like there'd be more resources over top on the planet, even though it's
I
radiated.
mean, also in the vault though, because they live in such an idyllic society, they don't really have much else to do besides do research and science projects and
Yeah.
try to improve things.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I will also say this scene here now where we have all the fighting going on. This is kind of where I, as the non-game player, maybe harken back to what a couple of you said on the onset here, which is where the tones of the show got a little murky for me. Just with
That's
the
fair.
comedy versus how like realistic and gory it was, but they're like giving these cheesy one-liners while people are having their eyes
Would you
stabbed
say it
with
was realistic though?
forks.
Like, I feel like I have an aversion to like realistic gore. To me, this is like over the top enough that it's kind of ridiculous. And I don't know. I didn't feel like the gore itself was really that much of
Okay,
a
maybe
bullshit.
it's just the violence itself, not the gore. Is that a better term for you, Joe?
Maybe.
I'd say,
Okay.
yeah.
Definitely have extreme violence going on here, regardless if you want to say it's gory or not. But then
Yeah.
it was like, even like the people in the show, like I started to see them in like costumes more than like realistic clothing that they were in at the time. I don't know, just started to seem a little weird at this particular juncture for me as somebody who hasn't played the games, trying to reconcile all of this in my head as to what I'm exactly watching here. But just
That's
my
fair.
thoughts. Just
I
my
mean,
thoughts.
it's
Yeah, I agree. That's fair.
yeah, it is hard to, remove our own biases given that we are familiar with the source material already. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I could definitely see where you're coming from, having not experienced that.
Okay, now we can talk about the best quote exchange of the entire show,
Which
Okay.
is
Let's hear it.
which is whoever brought it up there. So the lady says, "I think you know who I am." No, sorry. The dad says, "I think I know who you
I-
are." And then she
He
says,
says, "Everyone knows
"Everyone knows
who I
who
am."
I
Everyone knows who I
am."
am.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was
she
cool.
says to Lucy, "You look like your mother." So what's
Who
going
is
on
this
here?
woman?
Yeah, I left
Well-
this sequence with many questions, those same questions as well.
Mhm.
And I think it's not from like it's obviously not from bad writing. It's just from like leaving you with tidbits and morsels to like
Yeah.
to try and
Yeah.
chase. But
Jonathan Nolan,
Um,
Lisa Joy love leaving mysteries out there.
yeah, I don't
Hopefully
know
they'll
when,
actually resolve some of them, unlike in Westworld.
I thought you were going to say
Aw.
unlike J.J. Abrams.
or that.
Oh,
yeah, I mean I would guess I'm betting that we will get these answers,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
not for several episodes yet.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the other, like, so there's that exchange, but then the next part of it is they do like sedate Hank and take him away, and Lucy asks where they're taking him, and this woman says something like, "To the real world, you should try it sometime," or something.
Mhm.
But it seemed I got the sense that she is like somehow vindictive against like either the Vault Dwellers or Vault Tech itself.
Hmm.
Like if she's the way she said like the real world felt kind of pointed, as if like, where you've been living is not that.
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
sure. One thing that I didn't like was that she makes the overseer choose between his daughter or 6 other people, and then he of course chooses his daughter to live, but then they just let the 6 other people like run away
Yeah,
in
that didn't-
time as
yeah.
well.
I feel kind of
I
toothless.
thought that was
Yeah.
The
weird.
question didn't seem to make sense. Yeah.
There's
Oh, I
no,
actually didn't
yeah,
catch that.
toothless is the perfect word for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So those 6 people did survive?
Yeah, it
Oh,
seemed
I
like it, at
didn't-
least.
Yeah.
a
I
few
might have
of
been
them.
taking
least
notes
most
at
of
that
them,
point, maybe.
yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, that was
Okay.
especially weird given that they had already murdered most of the other people in the vault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of left wondering like
Dave's
why they
frozen again, I
took
think.
Hank. That'll probably get answered, but like why wouldn't they just kill everyone? And like
I
also
feel like there's a
why would they even leave? Why wouldn't they just stay in the vault, like take it for their own? Because it's gotta be much better living than it is
Well,
on the
it's not
surface.
the real world though.
Yeah,
Oh.
So
yeah, that, and I'm guessing that they have some plan for Hank out in the real world. I mean, I don't know what that is, but it seems like they kind of took him with purpose.
Well, I
Yeah.
ran every possible character that could possibly be connected to any of the characters in the vault in terms of relationships and or connections from business meetings. And in my conclusive research, I have decided that this lady is Lucy's aunt, specifically her mom's sister.
That was
I can
kind
see
of,
it.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the obvious conclusion to come to.
I don't know. We'll see.
That was like my first thought.
It definitely has to be somebody who the dad doesn't know in person.
But
But
has
then-
That's
heard
the
of.
odd thing. Yeah, like
But
Yeah,
then that
if-
second line has to mean like she's a, I don't know, bad. That second line is actually the kind of intriguing one. Everyone knows who I am. Like, what does that mean? Like she's top
She
shit
must
up
be
on
like-
the
gotta be like,
surface world,
yeah,
because then like they
notorious.
wouldn't really know about
Yeah.
her, right? But the
Yeah.
people in the vault know what's going on. They were like, we haven't been out there in forever. Zoinks.
Here's my new conspiracy theory. What if
Yes.
Lucy's mom was an outsider?
that also is a possibility.
What if
Which-
Lucy's mom is? What if Lucy
Well-
is her dad's mom?
Lucy is her own grandmother. You heard
But,
it here
um,
we know her dad's from Vault 31.
Mhm.
Right.
So presumably her mom is from Vault 33.
That's what they
Hmm.
said specifically.
Yeah.
Like he came
Yeah.
to 33 to get married. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
what
you
he said.
mentioned also
True.
that all the
Yeah.
vaults are set up as like experiments. So what if one of that trio of vaults is, what if that experiment was occasionally not just swapping between the other vaults, but swapping between itself and the outside? Which
Yeah.
would, so I mean, there's a whole bunch of possibilities here. So
I'm gonna go out on a hunch and say we're gonna see inside Vault 31 at some point.
I hope so.
I don't know that we are. I disagree.
Fine,
Hank is a super mutant.
let's do it. Vault 31 is only full of log ladies.
Uh,
And Hank was the
Um,
log.
the sugar bombs are not what they seem.
Anything else about this scene before we move on to the next one?
No, go for it.
So next thing we get is we get to meet Maximus,
Oh,
who
Jesus.
apparently is quite popular since he's getting his ass kicked. We also get introduced to the Brotherhood of Steel, and the first look at power armor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love this. Like the opening shot is they're playing basket brick.
Yes.
Yeah, they are.
Looks like I would not want to go in for a rebound in that game. But for those of you not familiar, the Brotherhood is basically like the closest thing to like a military in this world. Though they are they're definitely not good guys necessarily. They
Right.
are
I would
kind of
say
like
it's like they're more of kind of an isolationist paramilitary group.
Yeah.
mm,
Like the Michigan militia.
Kind of.
Okay,
yeah,
fair
you're not far off. I
Except with
think.
power armor.
Yep. Thank God they don't have that yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess we could just jump into the power armor design though. I did see like because they released some promotional image like before the series came out, and like it looks like really good. Like it's spot on from the games.
I agree. It's an iconic touch point that they needed to hit, and they did it perfectly.
Yeah, the power armor is literally like the face of the Fallout games.
Mm.
I think it's on the cover of like the vast majority, if not like all of the games.
It is.
Is that the mech suit?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Yes,
it's the
Cody.
power armor.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking
No,
about.
Cody, that's a good question. Like,
That is
no,
a good question.
I'm really glad that we have someone who has not played the game.
Yeah.
Is that the
like
giant mech
perspective
suit, or
in
is
here.
that their odd habit of putting metal shards in their boots? I was just asking.
Oh,
asking.
No, the odd habit is that they decided that the best possible toilet they could conceive of is two tires on top of a small table.
Yeah, what
Like,
was that? Like
They
it's so
don't
weird.
have shovels. They've never heard of digging a hole in the ground. They just every now and then take the tires off and dump the tape. I don't know.
But also,
unclear as to
like,
how
so
what
the
that plan is.
the Brotherhood of Steel's whole mission is to like find and secure like ancient
Artifacts.
pre-war technology.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They couldn't go like grab some toilets from an abandoned diner or something.
It's truly like a hole in the ground is such a primitive
Yeah.
technology that they have just skipped over.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to have power armor and not toilets is it's a pretty big thing there.
What if
Um,
power toilets?
Maybe they just poop in their power armor. I don't know.
Can I
It's
throw
like
it-
a still suit.
Can I throw one more comment as a non-player in here?
Please.
When this segment started, I don't know how they could have done it cleaner for me, and maybe I'm just the moron here, but I wish
Well, they
they
couldn't-
had somehow given me a timestamp on this third story, because I didn't know for sure if this was still in the 219 in the future or in the past, because the past cities didn't, when they showed the skyscrapers in the cities, they didn't look like our skyscrapers and cities.
Sure.
And so and there's
Hmm.
you know there's been plenty of shows that like go back and forth between the two time
Yeah.
periods. So I was
Yeah.
like, is this in the past or is
Okay.
this in the future? Coupled with the fact that these people didn't seem to give any shit about any kind of radiation or anything like that. So I was like, is this pre-bomb? Like, what is happening here? So
That is a fair
That
point.
yeah,
That
that's all
is-
fair. Agreed.
I think we figured it out by the end, but
um real quick, we get so Maximus has a friend Dane who essentially gets promoted to be a squire for Knight Titus, and then Dane gets a razor in the boot, as we alluded to earlier,
That was
which was
brutal.
That
yeah, that was
frickin'
So
scene.
gross.
yeah.
Ah.
When they first pulled their foot out of the boot, like I thought their foot had just been cut off completely.
Yeah.
Me too.
The way it looked, it was like, is there anything there left? I was
it was
like,
pretty
I like,
gross.
did someone drop a a uranium rod in there or something? Is it just like a stump? But yeah, it was
melted off.
Yeah, I was
horrible
surprised,
looking.
like the later scene where they have it all wrapped up and it looks like a foot still.
mhm,
Yes.
I'm gonna
yeah.
start calling Justin uranium rod from now on. What's up, buddy?
uh,
Next thing we get, we're back in Vault 33, where Lucy suggests that they send out a party to search for her dad. And they essentially reject the idea, saying they can't risk the resources and manpower. So she decides to go out on her own. So I thought, well, really cool. I didn't know this myself, but I had read that people recognized once we see her get outside. Apparently, we are in Santa Monica. That's what
Oh, okay.
that's what that landscape is.
Oh, the
Alright,
pier.
well,
That makes sense.
Makes
Okay.
sense with the Ferris wheel and all that, I guess.
Yeah. So this is apparently set in LA.
Not
Anything on the-
Vegas. Sorry, Joe.
Anything on this scene that you guys had
Yeah,
a comment
yeah, I
on?
wanted to say a couple of things about this. First, in a lot of the games, Fallout 3 especially, like a big iconic moment is coming out of the vault, and the game has like your eyes kind of adjust to the sunlight and you see the outside world for the first time. And I was hoping that would be a big moment for one of our main characters here. And I thought that they hit that nicely, especially with then seeing the ocean was really cool. One thing I did not like about this scene was I was really hoping that the brother would go with her. I think it's kind of not kind of, it's a strong cliche that like a man who's like small and wiry is also like a chicken.
Hmm.
And I thought he had showed like a little bit of development going into Vault 32 and kind of investigating what was going on there. And I thought maybe he was like going to be brave, and he like literally calls himself a chicken and does
yeah.
not go with her. I was hoping he would go.
Maybe this isn't the last we see of the brother.
I hope that's true, but
Yeah.
that vault closed behind her. You know what I mean?
True.
Mm.
Yeah.
Maybe they need him there to kind of explore the other vaults to see what's going on.
My
I mean, they might use him for that purpose. Maybe he'll make his way to Vault 31, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
yeah.
So they basically have unlimited supplies underground. Is that true? Or
Oh no. But I mean, they grow their own food generally. They have
Okay.
water purifiers, that sort of thing. So I mean, it's finite, but it's renewable, more or
Okay.
less.
so they don't have like
Yeah.
really capabilities of like making things.
I mean, they have machine shops and stuff. Is that what you mean? Or
I was just curious, like they seem to have all this tech underground, which I mean, more or less, I feel like you guys were kind of saying earlier too, but like it seems like they would have created like a radiation suit or something to be able to go outside the vaults prior to this, but
Well,
I guess
a
not.
lot of the vaults do have taboos about that too. Just like it's safe here. Why would we ever go outside? We have everything we need. You stay safe, stay secure, that sort of thing. That's a common theme for a lot of vaults in this series.
I will also say, Dave, your scene with the door opening, as
Yeah.
someone who may or may not have hurt their eyes with an eclipse this week, that scene was terrible. Oh my God.
Oh boy.
I was like, oh, it's so bright.
I did have one comment about that scene, which is just poor Chet.
Yeah.
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 Maybe
Heartbroken.
maybe Chet and the brother will find love together.
But they're cousins
There-
too.
I was gonna say that.
But they, you know what? That's true. They don't have to worry about
That's my
kids.
point. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
So, great point. Go
Chet
for it,
your-
you
what's your
guys.
some
sperm
cousin
count?
love
Okay.
and-
Why don't
your
you
sperm
count it
count?
for me?
10,000 less now. All right, let's move on.
Oh,
Oh,
how do
Moving
you
on.
count with your mouth? What?
Okay. Next scene, we wreck back with the Brotherhood. We see Maximus getting interrogated, and I guess that's the main thing I took away from this scene was like we're basically still in the dark, like on what actually happened.
Yeah.
And like, did Maximus put the razor in the boot? We don't know. He says he didn't, but he seems awful fishy about it.
Mhm.
Let me ask you guys this. How did you feel about the actor who plays Maximus's performance?
I thought it was fine.
I
You didn't
think
like
just
him?
specifically during this scene, I wasn't sure if he was giving a great performance of being like super uncomfortable and like not really knowing what's going on, or if he was just not a great actor and not really good at conveying to the audience like what we're supposed to be getting from this scene. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that my feelings about him change moving forward, but I kind of
Mhm.
feel like I had a hard time reading the character, and it may or may not be because of the performance.
I thought he did
I
a
did-
good job of showing us that he knows, but we'll see.
That he knows what.
That he did it. I think he did it.
Yeah, I specifically had some notes on that as well about the just the character. And I guess at this point, I'm assuming that is how it was written and it was performed accurately, because they've everything else to that point had been seemingly very like everything like was done purposely and like they knew what they were doing. So my
Mhm.
feeling is that character is supposed to be that way, which
Okay.
honestly makes me like I'm not sold on that character. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to root for this guy? Is he supposed to be likable? Is he?
Yeah.
He's a guy like he seemed to be mad about. Well, he was obviously mad
Mhm.
about getting passed over for this promotion or getting left behind or whatever. But we also see that he's not like he's not putting in the work to get ahead either. So
Yeah.
like
he feels he
he's-
just sort of deserves it.
yeah. So I don't, as far as the character goes, I don't like the character yet. I guess we'll see if that changes or not. But
Should,
I guess
should we
I
take a
guess
vote on who thinks he did the boot thing?
we could do that.
Sure.
Raise your
I
hand.
think that's really kind of my problem with that scene is that I felt like I had no idea. Like I just did not really have a strong inclination one way or the other. But I feel like the answer to that question says a lot about the character.
Mhm.
And like it feels kind of problematic to me that we as an audience don't at least get a strong push, I feel like one way or the other by the end of this episode, as far as whether or not he is someone who would do something like that.
See, I kind of like that ambiguity because to me it seems like he totally could be the type of person who would do that, but whether or not he did is unclear because what is clear is that most of the other recruits don't like him. So they could have used the fact that he would obviously be the one that would be suspected of doing that to do it themselves and get him in trouble. Now, and that at the same time leaves us in the dark as to which way it went. The main question there, I think, is whether or not the other recruits disliked his friend enough to do that to them versus, I mean, it's just up for the sake of throwing Maximus under the bus. And that's the part I'm not sure about. Because if for most of the episode, they didn't seem to have any problem with the friend at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's likely Maximus did it, but at the same time, there is that seed of doubt that maybe the others are just as brutal and cutthroat as he might be, and that's an interesting look at that culture, I think.
My bigger problem is that Dane, whose foot is all fucked up, was basically at the end like, oh well.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that
fair.
seemed to be their attitude about it. Like
That did seem a bit
if
odd, yeah.
Maximus did do it, then Dane's attitude is like, you little rascal, you. Like,
You got me good.
you got me real good. Yeah, and I don't really understand how, whether if he did it or not, how he got that promotion. It seems like there are
Yeah.
they spend the first part of his character introduction kind of letting us know he's pretty inept. He's very moody. Like he does not seem like a good candidate for this position, and whether he did it or not, he's given that position, and I that didn't sit right with me.
This would be a really
Yeah.
long shot, but is there even like a 1% chance that Dane did it himself so that he could recommend his friend for the promotion?
I doubt that.
Not even a
No.
1% chance?
No, not even.
All right, I'm calling it
I
now
don't
then.
think
There it
so.
is.
All right.
I think there is a chance that the superiors are the ones who did it in order to see how Maximus would react.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
But-
I didn't think about that, but I would not
Yeah.
be entirely shocked by that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
so
kind of
the
like that theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
the end result of this scene is that, as we said, Maximus does get the promotion that Dane was supposed to get somehow. The last thing I've written down for this scene was, holy shit, that guy has a huge sack.
Wait, what now? Oh, yeah.
Actually, that was actually
That's
something
phrasing,
that I kind
Brett,
of had an issue
phrasing.
with, because so Maximus is carrying this massive bag and it seems like it's pretty heavy.
Mhm.
But then once he gets to the like helicopter thing, he magically just like chucks it up there with like seemingly little
Tosses
problem.
it like it's a
I
bag
didn't
of
really catch
feathers.
that.
Yeah.
I did
That's
notice
funny.
that also. So these people that aren't under the ground in the bunkers that are living up in this wasteland can make better tech than the people that had the nice place this whole time. How's this working?
What tech are you talking about
Like
specifically?
these people are building like your, what are you calling them? Your power suits?
The power armor.
The power blade
Well-
for the NES? Power armor? Yes, they're
I'm,
like
I'm not so sure if those are being built or if they just survived the
Yeah, I
slug.
believe that's
so
pre-war
yeah,
tech.
survived
again,
from
the-
when the bombs went off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so this
Yeah.
was already a
Again,
thing
the,
they
the
had.
whole mission of the Brotherhood of Steel is to like find and preserve pre-war tech,
Including the suits.
including
Interesting. Okay.
especially military technology.
Yes.
I forget, is the giant blimp, that is the same as well, right? That existed
I
pre
think so.
I wanna
believe
say yes.
so.
bombs.
Now I'm
Hmm.
curious about that.
So these already existed.
That's
Interesting.
yeah, I
Okay.
believe so.
And they've just been running maintenance on them for 200 years.
As best
The
they can. Yeah.
Prydwen.
All right, just curious. Just curious. Make sure I got everything set here. Well, that was the end of the episode. So, what do you guys want to put a rating on this? Or
Was
what?
not the end of the episode.
Well, it should have been.
Come on. The true end of the episode here, we have some
Just
some
kidding.
random wastelanders going to dig up the ghoul and attempt to recruit him for a job. And the first thing I wrote down here was they've got a junk shooter, which I know is a thing from the games. I
It's
didn't
a junk jet.
The junk jet.
Jet.
There we go. Yes, that's the correct terminology. The guy gets a baby doll foot right in his chest
Yeah, it is.
as a result of that.
I called it the
Uh,
baby leg cannon in my notes. So,
Also gets the point across.
Yeah.
And
got kicked.
so
I
Awesome.
liked how like I liked how that's obviously, like an Easter egg for the fans of the games, but I loved how like that just happens and they didn't have to stop everything and be like, this is a junk jet. You can put anything you want in here, it'll shoot it at somebody. Like it's just matter of fact. Like that's a thing that exists in this world and they don't even comment on it.
So I thought it was pretty cool. So they're going to this grave and there's like IV bags like going down into the grave. which I think brings up a lot of questions like, what the hell's going on here? So so they dig up this guy, and they're calling him this ghoul, and they're like, oh, he's gone feral, and
The ghouls can't have had a chicken.
that line was so good. It's just so matter of the fact, like, you idiot, feral ghoul can't abide a chicken.
Everyone knows.
That was beautiful.
So they open up the casket, and out comes a character that looks awfully familiar. I mean, I'm sure it's 99% that this is the same. Gosh, what was his name?
Sheriff Woody. What was his name?
I have to go back and look at my notes here. Yeah, what's this
Cletus
guy's name?
McGillicuddy?
No, Cooper Howard. There we go. That's the character's name.
Special Agent Dale Cooper Howard.
There you go.
Ron Howard.
Clint.
So I guess the question is, how's this guy still alive? Exactly. Like,
He's
what?
a ghoul.
But what is that? Is it a vampire?
No.
So this is
Yeah,
also
IV-based
not
kinda
a
seemed
character.
like
I
it's a
mean,
vampire.
is
No,
it
this
spoil-
is
I
a
mean,
this
is
is a
this a-
Fallout thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if the explanation is a spoiler, but long
Go ahead,
story
Joe.
short, it's a mutation that's a result of the nuclear radiation.
Okay.
Okay.
So
One of a couple possible
Yes.
mutations. Yeah.
Sure.
So he just has like really long lifespan. Is he like immortal?
I believe
No.
they are immortal.
I believe theoretically.
I mean,
they
you can
are.
kill them.
Yeah.
You kill many feral ghouls in
Yeah.
these games,
Mhm.
and meet some non-feral ghouls as well.
Yes.
Okay.
huh.
If you're lucky,
Uh,
you might even obtain a ghoul friend. I'm so sorry. Go on, Brett.
I guess what I take away from this is the character of the ghoul feels like a really fun character. I'm like really excited to get more, see more of this character in the future episodes here. I think it's just gonna be really fun to watch and just follow about this world.
So he's headed to California.
Yes.
The other story's in California.
Yes.
And then the other story, we don't know where the fuck that's at. The
Unless there was
Brotherhood.
something in the
True.
distance that established it as like a skyline, and I don't think there was.
I don't.
So,
Yeah, I don't
that's-
think there is like a setting established there.
Oh.
And keep in mind, this is, Westworld has let us know that these are not necessarily happening at the same time.
That's true. Although I really hope that they learned a lesson from Westworld in that regard. And if it is not all happening at the same time, that they will not withhold that from the audience for too long.
Is
call it The Witcher so people can tune out.
is Night Titus secretly Lucy? Is she in that power armor?
Maybe. One thing
Highly doubt it,
that-
but
Whoa.
could be. Could
Mind
be.
blown.
We don't know who's in there.
So like a very important thing that I did not catch until my second viewing, which I think points towards where things are heading, is the leader of the guy tells the ghoul that they're pursuing an escapee from the Enclave, which first of all is like a whole other thing in the world of Fallout.
Yeah.
And he says that he's running to that witch Moldaver in California. And the leader of the Raiders at the beginning, who ransack the vault, introduces herself as Lee Moldaver.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I missed that
good.
too.
Oh.
Connected that way, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I was
Something
trying to
on-
remember if I thought I remembered that guy mentioning the guy who ran away from the Enclave,
Yep.
which would make them those two both in the timeline. But yeah, if they, that's right. He also mentioned Moldaver, so it seems like they would all be in the same timeline. Then.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think
I
so.
guess that's a good point. Yeah, I can't wait till Benjamin Linus joins the
know.
show. I'm excited.
All right. So
It is also fun that at the beginning of the show, Cooper is like a movie cowboy. and at the end in ghoul form, he's like an actual like badass ghoul, like sharpshooting.
He was a badass the moment he
cowboy.
rode away on that horse.
Yes.
I'm not saying he wasn't a badass, but it's like he went from being, a pretend cowboy to like
Yeah.
an old west outlaw.
I don't know how pretendy he was at the beginning. I don't know what he was famous for. So they clearly knew him from something, but I don't know what it was.
I
I
like
don't
the sense that he
know.
was an actor, but I guess
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
I have an answer to that is so good it's probably a spoiler.
Okay.
Should I share?
Is it your thought?
Yeah,
Well, then,
but
go for it then.
Go for it then.
I mean, look at Joe. Joe, move to your right for a sec. Oh, sorry, other right. That right there is Vault Boy. He's the symbol of Vault Tech.
Are you
and-
saying Walton Goggins is the fault boy?
I'm saying he is Vault Boy. They're talking about how he's known for the
Oh.
thumbs up.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think-
yeah.
Oh,
Good
I
call.
think he was the
that's-
spokesperson for
Oh.
Vault-Tec. And at some
Yeah.
point they switched to an animated version, but I think he's
That's
Vault Boy.
interesting.
Makes all the sense,
Good
actually.
Yeah, that's probably
Yeah.
true.
I did
Wow.
look up earlier, like whether the thumb thing that the Vault Boy is doing is supposed to mean what he says it means, with measuring whether you can run from it or not.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And apparently that is a fan theory that has been presented over the years. But
I
the
mean-
artist who originally designed the Vault Boy and the game studio all say that that is not actually the case, that he's just supposed to be like an optimistic, happy character. And
But
it's
he's
just a thumbs up.
winking.
Yeah, he's
And
looking with
he's-
one eye.
Yeah, he's looking
He's-
at his.
Is he
looking at it with
winking
one
or
eye.
is he
Listen, it would make-
squinting?
It would make sense, but I'm just saying that the official explanation is that it is not actually that he's like measuring the nuclear blast.
Okay, interesting.
Interesting. I think that's a terrible way to measure a nuclear blast, by the way. But if you're close enough that you're watching, it's probably bad news, period. But
Yes.
no matter how
How-
big your thumb is.
Well, it's along
How
the
much
lines of
poop do I need to put in my pants?
Two
it's along the
tires
line-
worth.
Depends if you're with your cousin.
What were you saying, Justin?
I don't know if I can follow that.
Oh.
No, it's sort of along the lines of the whole duck and cover thing. If
Yeah,
a bomb
yeah.
falls, I don't think it's actually
Yeah.
supposed to be useful. It's just something to calm people down and
Yeah.
make them feel like they have some sort of control over their inevitable doom.
Mm.
All right. Can I just say before we're through here, my favorite character in this whole first episode was Honcho, and they killed him in about 2 minutes. Very disappointed in that. I was hoping he was going to go with the ghoul, but
Well, did they kill him or is he just in that grave? He could
Yeah, I
return.
was
Yeah.
wondering about that.
I guess he could be
There's
alive.
a
but he
chance to
got,
climb out.
how do you did he randomly get like the rope in his mouth and he get yanked down? I tried to watch that part like 3 times. It's so
was a dark
it's hard to
scene.
see.
Yeah,
It was a little vague. I considered it just a call out or a callback to the ghoul's lasso skills
Mhm.
that he
Right.
showed at the beginning, that he'd be able to pull off something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to tell like where exactly the rope was going though.
Yeah.
But then
agreed.
later, like it seemed to be like in his mouth. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I thought the ghoul had some weird looking makeup, but that's just me.
Well, he's horribly.
Let's see what
scarred
you
for-
look like after
Yeah.
nuclear radiation for 219 years.
Yeah, it just seemed like everybody else had good makeup in the show for the most part, but he looked a little wonky. He was like halfway between like prosthetics and zombie and human and
Well, I'm sure there's CGI at work
Yeah.
there, so maybe it
what? There's no CGI in the show. It says so right in the
Wasn't
credits.
they actually
quite.
cut off his nose.
I will say my
Listen, he has a Red Skull mask on. That was given right away.
I love the
Oh.
design of the power armor, but I wish the CGI of the power armor was slightly better.
hmm
I didn't notice
That's
it.
like
but-
my one critique. I did want to say overall though, like from a production design standpoint, Cody, I know you said that like during the vault scene, it kind of felt like they were wearing costumes instead of like real clothing.
Yeah.
For me, one of the things that impressed me the most, at least in this first episode, is that I feel like in trying to bring any video game to life, but including Fallout, there is a real risk of things feeling too like cartoonish and fake.
Mhm.
And I feel like this show managed to find the right balance visually of everything looks like, costumes, set design, everything from the games brought to life, but it manages to feel like realistic and not like super cartoony and fake, at least
Okay.
in my opinion.
I mean, I think that's
It's kind of
always
like
a fine line to balance, right? Like, I was thinking of like the X-Men, for example, because when they made those X-Men movies in like the 90s, they went the opposite way with the costumes, and they were like, these are more
Yeah.
realistic looking, and everyone was like, these are terrible. And then now they're kind of back the other way. So
yeah, just piggybacking what you're saying, Joe. I think it's like they managed to toe a line of it being over the top, but not so far over that you're like, what the hell am I watching right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard line to follow.
I was gonna ask, just because I may have missed it, but they're doing all these video game adaptations for movies and TVs. Have they done BioShock yet or not?
No,
I
No?
think it's still in the works.
So
I think
I just
yeah.
saw earlier today I forget where it was supposed to be. There was a BioShock series in development, but apparently it was canceled like late last year.
Oh.
So I mean it has to happen at some
It'll
point
happen,
somewhere.
yeah.
Like it just has to, but I don't think it's getting much closer right now.
All right. Well, I think we've talked this out pretty well. Are we ready to put some final thoughts and some numbers onto this?
Sure.
All right. Who volunteers?
I'll go first. I mean, I feel like I've already said most of my thoughts. I was nervous sitting down to watch this episode largely because I had seen some reviews, and like the reviews of this series are just absolutely glowing. Like 9s and 10s out of 10s I've saw, and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to live up to that. As I mentioned, the Fallout games are among my favorite video games of all time. Just based on the first episode alone, I feel like they absolutely nailed the tone and feel of those games. While also beginning an original story in this universe. I mean, a lot of the iconography is familiar. Part of me wishes Lucy's story didn't at least start in quite such a familiar way. The idea of like a vault dweller having to venture out to find a lost parent or other loved one is like the premise of every Fallout game. So I guess it makes sense in that
Yeah.
regard.
Just 3 really, but yeah.
Well, 4 also kind of.
He wasn't in a vault.
Anyway,
That's not a vault dweller.
I mean, I guess that's true. Anyway, my point is, I was kind of blown away by this first episode. I honestly can't imagine a better adaptation of Fallout. I honestly was tempted to give this a perfect score, but I feel like I have some reservations. I wasn't entirely sold on Maximus. That said, I'm trying to keep an open mind and see where that character goes. But based on everything that isn't in the first episode, I think I would have to give this a 9.0 out of 10.
9 points. I can go next because I'm going to be the odd person out here probably who hasn't seen it. So,
Sure.
It had a lot that I liked about it for sure. It's an interesting premise. Like I'm probably the stupid one, but I seriously didn't even know that Fallout was about the nuclear bombs and radiation. I had no idea what it was a reference to be honest. But
You thought it was about the band Fall Out Boy.
oh, that might have made this better.
I'm sorry your docudrama dreams were crushed.
No, but there's some fun stuff in here as well. I really hope we get more like the first little bit of the world we got before the 219-year flash. I hope we get a little more with the cowboy and his daughter and what happened like in the chaos that ensued after that moment occurred, because I feel like we need to know a little bit more about that guy to like appreciate who he is at the end a little bit more. I kind of thought they were going to come back to it at some point in the episode, but they stayed in the future or the now present. I don't know how you want to label that, I guess, because they didn't go back. But anyway, that was good. The Society Underground. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of interesting where that's gonna go. I guess I'm still learning like I guess like a viewer would from the TV show because I haven't played the games, so all I can do is look at this as just somebody watching a new TV show. I don't know what's going on with the Brotherhood thing yet or where that's gonna go, so I'm intrigued a little bit. I want to get to know the characters more though in the world so that I care about them slightly more than I do at the moment. But there's potentially here if they go into some interesting directions, this could be a fun show to watch, I think. I'm gonna go with the low score of the night here, and I'm gonna give this a 6.75. Definitely better than Jason Isbell.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead. No, you
Okay,
go
okay.
ahead.
I'll just keep
Okay, fine,
talking
fine,
then.
I'll go.
Somewhere between the two Roadhouse movies.
Okay, I will stop Cody's madness. All right. So I'm certainly not the biggest Fallout fan out of the group of us assembled today, but I do like the series based on what I played of it and based on what I've seen of this adaptation. I will say, heading into this, I was very hesitant because, in general, video game adaptations have a history of not going over well. That's starting to change as time goes on, and I'm very happy about that. But I also, because Amazon also has kind of a checkered past in adapting long-running franchises, Rings of Power. So I was really worried that they were just
How
going
dare
to,
you?
I was worried that they were going to just really drop the ball on this one too. But I went in not really having read much about the plot synopsis for the show or anything, just completely blind other than what I'd known from the games. And I do agree it does a very good job of capturing that atmosphere, that general aesthetic, and just the overall kind of storytelling style of the Fallout games, with that weird mix of humor and just ultra violence and very just a very unique setting. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that they actually did do a good job on this. I have questions, but it's only the first episode, so that's understandable. And that said, I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. 8 out of 10 so far.
I agree with a lot of what Justin and Joe said. I think they understood the assignment. They executed it well. They had lots of great references without being empty fan service. I like what you said, Joe, especially about how they're telling their own story within the world, instead of just adapting stories that we've already seen in the games. Yeah, so I will give it a 9 out of 10 as well.
All right. I also share many of the feelings and opinions you guys just had, but what I would say about it to make my own little unique here was that I just felt like it was a great episode of TV in general. Like my kind of takeaway from it was that this would be really fun and engaging, even if it was like a brand new property and not Fallout. I feel like a lot of the parts of it were done really well. The characters were great. The acting was really great. Just brought these characters to life, that these people that you like immediately like and like care about and want to see more of. It did include a fair amount of fan service, but it wasn't like in your face. It was like there to where you could recognize it, but they're not like waving it like, hey, here's we're doing the thing. And it just kind of really hooked me right from the start with with these likable characters and the acting. And I really like the music was really done all the way throughout, not just like the 50s themed selections, but just like the action music in the background for the scenes was really good as well. Not everybody does that well. And when you get a show that does music well, you notice it. pretty.
I believe it had the same composer as Westworld as well, which
Yeah,
also
and
had
Game of
great
Thrones.
music.
Ramin Djawadi.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
awesome.
True. Yeah. So all in all, I really enjoyed the episode just as an episode itself. I think from my knowledge and experience with the Fallout series, I think they nailed almost everything about it. I don't think there's anything I can think of that's like a complaint, like, you didn't do this properly, and yeah, I'm really excited to see where this can go. I definitely feel like they are doing it properly. So I would also give this a 9.0 out of 10. Which, if I do the math quick here, gives us an average of 8.35 on this one.
That's pretty high for this group.
It is.
That's true. So any final thoughts before we head out of here?
I just had one for you, Brett. You were mentioning you like great fight music during movies. Have you seen the new Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal?
As a matter of fact, I have.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I sure have.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our ending here. And as it's been said here, everyone knows that a feral ghoul can't abide a chicken. But Joe,
No.
what can't a feral Joe abide?
Ooh.
A Cody Fleming.
Yeah, that's
Oh, no, it's called feral.
the only possible answer.
Okay, but what if Cody Fleming was voiced by Sam Elliott?
Oh no.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
He
What do you
just got
think now,
50%
Joe?
hotter.
But 50% of zero is still zero.
That's true.
Mm.
I would have to respect that goal slightly more before I blew his head off.
There you go. You've heard it here. That's our time for tonight. We're heading out here. Thank you for listening to this episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. If you enjoyed this and want some more, we have over 100. What is this? We're like 115. I don't even remember what episode we're on
115
now.
tonight.
Nice.
115 episodes to go back and check out if you want to hear some more from us. We also are out there on Facebook if you want to catch up with us there and continue the conversations. And if you really loved us so much that you need us on your body, well, there's a shirt for that. Go check out our merch on Designed by Humans. So, and one last plug: if you're a wrestling fan, go check out the content Cody's making on his side
No,
pod.
don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
The
Positively
Pod
AEW.
title. There you go. Let Cody do it himself.
Ignore Cody's podcast and ignore any parts of this episode that feature Justin Henry. Good night, America.
Oh.
Okie dokie then.
See you next time.
Bye.
Yeah.